days following a big storm event or whatever that event is, we really want residents to know, again, you are your own first responder. So we want to make sure you prepare for that ahead of time. Look back now, what is your risk? Are you at risk for freshwater flooding with rain? Are you at risk for storm surge flooding? Are you wind vulnerable? Do you live in a mobile home? When we prepare for disasters, living through a disaster is stressful and difficult enough. That becomes even harder when you're unprepared for that disaster. So again, we have a unique opportunity for us this year in Tampa Bay as we've seen the wind, we've seen the high water, and we've seen the rain. So let's use that. Let's be prepared for that. Let's be prepared to, again, be on our own for the first few days. What does that look like for you? Who are you checking on? Family, friends, neighbors. In St. Pete, we are a close-knit community, and we pride ourselves on being close-knit and helping each other out. So be that person for your neighbor. Help everyone out. And I know that if we were to get an event this year, and hopefully I know we're all silently hoping and that we don't see that this year, but we will be prepared. We survived last year. I know we're better off for it this year. And if we all work just, even more to make sure we're prepared this year, I know we'll be successful. And with that, I would like to pass it off to Congresswoman Kathy Castor. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Amber, and thank you to Chief Holloway. I've spent the morning with Chief Holloway on a broad-based briefing on everything that St. Pete PD is doing to keep us safe. The technological tools that the St. Petersburg Police Department has at their disposal are cutting edge, and it's very important that we continue to do that, whether we're talking about drones or robots or their ability to solve crimes. I am so much more confident after spending the morning with Chief Holloway and all of his personnel in what they are doing here in the city of St. Petersburg on crime fighting. And part of that also is emergency preparedness as well. Chief Holloway, under Mayor Welch's leadership, and Amber Boulding, head of emergency preparedness, they are really very forward-leaning. And what you heard from Amber is they have taken so much of what they've learned from the catastrophes of Debbie, Helene, and Milton, and they're pouring that into preparing for that worst-case scenario. Let's just hope we don't get the 7-foot storm surge followed by the 1,000-year rain event where you had a 1.5 foot of rain fall on St. Petersburg. But there are vulnerabilities, and I want folks to be prepared. A lot of this is out of their control, and it is the responsibility of the federal government to be a strong partner. And right now, I cannot report that the federal government is there in every way that they were there last hurricane season, unfortunately. And if you start with NOAA and the National Weather Service, we know that under Elon Musk and a lot of the chainsaw cuts to federal scientists and agency experts now, we don't have the same number of meteorologists, hurricane hunter experts, folks on the job preparing for an active hurricane season. Now, the National Hurricane Center says they will be able to deal with what comes, but it's a vulnerability moving forward. FEMA also is not entirely prepared for an active hurricane season, again, because of the arbitrary chainsaw cuts to expertise and personnel at that agency. The back and forth on whether FEMA should exist at all does not lend itself to having full confidence that they are going to be the partner on the ground that we saw in the aftermath of Helene and Milton. It was days after the storm surge of Hurricane Helene, and I saw the FEMA contractors on the ground checking on our neighbors, making sure they had the emergency funds necessary to get them through that emergency response period. And I cannot say, based upon what I've heard over the past months and talking with experts, that they are going to be there. We are fortunate in Florida because we have the best hurricane and emergency managers at the local level and at the state level. We do this better than any other state, but a weakness and a vulnerability could be the fact that FEMA does not have the same personnel on the ground. And this, unfortunately, is reflected in the monies that they are withholding from local communities like St. Pete, Pinellas, Tampa, and Hillsborough as well. Right now, they have cut back on the building resilient infrastructure grants that local communities were relying on. They've cut back on the hazard mitigation grants. Those are the funds that help you rebuild seawalls, roads, water infrastructure, and they have announced over the past couple of weeks that local communities will not get those same funds. So it's a time now for folks to be vigilant, to look out for their neighbors, to take some extra added responsibility. We know, we just hope and pray this is not the new normal, but what we know is that the Gulf waters are very hot. We know that NOAA is predicting an active hurricane season. The climate is heating. There are longer, hotter summers. Just last week, we set all-time records for in Tampa. It never got below 80 degrees at night for a couple days in a row. That is the first time that's happened in May since they started keeping records before 1900. So all of this adds up to being especially vigilant this year, listening to the experts like Chief Tony Holloway and Mayor Welch and Amber Boulding here in St. Petersburg, looking out for your neighbors, just being extra prepared, more vigilant than you have been before because of the uncertainty coming from the federal level. I wish I had a better news to report on the federal side. People rise to the occasion in this community. No matter what happens, we always look out for our neighbors and take care of each other, and I would expect no less in the days ahead. Thank you all very much. Do you have any questions?
Yes, you spoke about the hazard mitigation program. You also spoke about FEMA eliminating $300 million toward the BRIC program. Well, what about Elevate Florida? $400 million. People in this area are waiting for that money to lift and elevate their homes, to prevent flooding, to prevent the devastation. Do you have any information about where that $400 million is coming? Do you know when it's coming? Is it still being withheld at the federal level?
Yeah, I do not have good information on that, and that's been part of the problem with so much of this is opaque. You might have an announcement from the federal government, but more oftentimes you're hearing it from people at the local level that funds they anticipated, they were counting on to arrive to help keep neighborhoods safe, to help lower costs, just have not arrived, and that is a terrible way to prepare for emergencies.
What would you say to those residents that are waiting? They applied, they're waiting in their portal, they have no information right now, as you don't, and you're a state leader. Residents need answers now, and we're in hurricane season. They're hurting. They don't even have a home to go to. We've been there, we've seen it, and I'm sure you have as well.
I know. The higher costs and the pain of people rebuilding their lives after a storm surge into their living rooms and then maybe the flooding rains of Milton, it has been a very tough road for people. Many have just thrown up their hands and given up. So think about that when government is compounding the misery, it's not right, it's not fair, and everything comes back to the pocketbook too. At a time of the highest insurance costs ever, to withhold funds for people when they are trying to do better. Oftentimes, if you use those monies to mitigate the hazards and flood and you're raising your home, that means you're going to save on your insurance, so that they've pushed that farther out of reach. It's just not fair to people.
So you mentioned FEMA is not entirely prepared, and you mentioned some funds that were cut back as well. How can people feel comfortable going into this hurricane season knowing that FEMA's not prepared?
I think there is going to be some anxiety, unfortunately, and that's why I look to our local leaders to help build confidence. They have learned a lot from the past storms. The local emergency managers are the best. But what I fear is with all these cuts, there's some things that local emergency managers can't do. It's very hard for them to call on search and rescue teams from across the country. It's very difficult to rally medical assistance teams that are expert in disaster response. So time will tell, and hopefully, let's hope and pray we don't live through what we did last year. But it's time for elected officials to take this seriously, for the federal government to realize that they have a very important role to play when it comes to disaster response. You cannot rely on communities that have been devastated by a catastrophe to be able to pick up all of this. So it's really incumbent upon all of us to be extra vigilant this year.
Have we ever gone through a hurricane season with this many questions and anxiety and cuts?
I can't remember this in Florida. Oh, you know, FEMA can be more efficient, that's for sure, but calls to eliminate it and then to take a chainsaw to thousands and thousands of experts who understand how to respond to disasters and flex all across the country. This is new territory.
Representative Castor, I have a question on a different subject. Can you talk about the closing of Job Corps locations and the plan for those who attended or worked there?
Can we do it?
Okay.
Can we do it off the St. Pete PD?
Sure.
Or St. Pete? Yeah. I'll do that over here. Good. Anybody else on this? Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Amber.